Good afternoon. I'm Chef Ed, and I'm here in the Culinary Scene kitchen. And today we're going to be talking about cooktops and range tops. So I'm going to be going over induction, cooktop, range tops, doing a little bit of cooking on the griddle, and just kind of talking about stuff that we use to clean and stuff that we use when we're cooking. But one important side note today is if you have any questions throughout the demo, we got Lynn Thielen behind the computer. If you just go over to the chat and type in any questions, she'll be able to get my attention and I'll be able to answer those questions for you. I will also make sure I do some questions at the end. So if anybody has any questions, it is important for you to go over to that chat. You can go ahead and put them in so we can get those answered. If for some reason you got a question afterwards, go ahead and put it in there and we'll try to get an answer emailed to you so that we know that you are answered. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of induction today. And what I like to start off with is talking a little bit about your induction cooktops. So cooktops and range tops are real similar. You're going to have different power areas on your cooktop. So you're going to have anywhere between 1400 watts, which are going to be your small burners, 2100 watts, which will be your medium-sized burners, and then you'll have a large burner that's up there around 2700 watts. One thing to note is on your induction, you will always have a boost mode. It'll be at least two burners will have the boost feature. And what that's going to be good for is when you're getting a big pot of water going or something real large, you're going to be able to get that up to temperature as quick as possible because it's actually going to boost the power from like 2600 watts or 2100 watts on the little smaller one all the way up to 3700 watts. So you're doing a big jump in power there with the boost. Another thing to note is when you go to turn on your cooktop or range top, the configurations might look a little bit different than what I have here, but it's all going to be similar the way that you do it. So I'm going to hold down, and you're going to want to unlock your cooktop. Usually when you're not using it for a while, it will lock, or if you don't have anything on there, then when you go to turn it on, you're going to go ahead and hit on. So right now, I'm turning on my griddle, and I'm going to be using the bridge feature. So on a 30-inch, you're going to get up to bridge two of these burners here. And what that's going to do is going to allow the whole steel plate that I got here to get hot. So when I talk about griddles, or I do talk about the pans that we use, there is one important thing with induction. Everybody always asks, what pans do I get? I know there's a certain kind of pan that you got to use. So unlike your old electric cooktops or newer electric cooktops, this is using electricity, but the surface is never heating up. You don't have the heating element getting hot underneath, then going through the glass and then heating your pan up. What it's using is electricity. So you're in your pans, you're going to need cast iron. Or not cast iron, you're going to need iron and ferrous metals. So iron, steel. So if it's got a steel or iron core, it's going to work great. So some way to test this would be to take a magnet. If a magnet will stick to your pan, it's going to work on your induction. Because what that does is it takes the magnetic and it gets it reacts with the particles of the iron, and it actually creates friction and it heats up the pan in the iron. So your pan actually becomes the heating element. So that's pretty cool. Your cooktop is putting the energy into the pan, and then the pan is what's heating up. So one cool thing about that is I got this griddle going right now. This is a steel griddle. This griddle you could pick up at really any kitchen place that will serve or that will sell griddles or pots and pans. This is just a generic rolled steel griddle. So you can buy one there as long as it's flat and it's cast iron or steel, it's going to work on your induction. Then I have it bridged, so both of these burners are working at the same time. If I want to turn it up or down, I don't have to turn both burners up or down. They are connected. Another thing about that is if you've got the 36-inch, you're going to be able to bridge 4 burners. To where if you had a big pot or a big cast iron that you wanted to put on there, you could bridge all 4 of them, and they're going to be able to keep that whole plate hot. And it's not just the burners that are getting hot. Since it's putting that energy into the plate, the whole thing is evenly getting hot. Wolf really is the master of heat transfer, and you're going to see that a few times throughout the cooktops and range tops. And I'm going to be cooking a little bit today. I got, throughout the week, I do a couple different things. This week I cooked a little prime rib, and I cooked some shrimp, a little shrimp pasta, and I just have a few extra leftover things that I'm gonna throw together and just make a couple sandwiches and a little egg dish that I have with my leftovers in the refrigerator, because you're always trying to find ways to use up leftovers. A griddle is always a good way to use that. Especially I like to show it on the induction because I want to make sure you're getting the full capability out of it. I want you to use that bridge. I want you to use that boost. One other thing about the boost with that 3,700 watts, it's not really something you need to use for searing or for sauteing because it's going to get it real hot. You're really going to want to use that if you got a big stock pot on or you're trying to get rolling up to a boil quick. Induction does a great job with time management. You're going to be able to get water up to a boil faster than you ever have because it's going to instantly transfer that heat into there. You're not having anything lost because it's using the pan as the cooking element. So you're not losing any energy, like you're not losing a lot, but say I had it on this cooktop and I put my hand right here, you can feel that heat rolling up the top. So that's a little bit of loss of energy. So when you have the induction, there's no loss of energy. You're going to get it up to a boil real quick. I say that because the first time I used our induction cooktop, I had some cream and butter on here. I was making some mashed potatoes. I went to the other side of the kitchen, turned around, cream and butter everywhere. I was like, oh man, what a rookie mistake. Even chefs like myself, we make mistakes. So the good thing about that is the induction cooktop is so easy to clean. You're not going to get those rings around your burners like you would think of a electric cooktop because it's never getting that hot to where it's going to burn on. If you ever get anything burnt on, it's not going to be actually burnt on. It's going to be like something like caramel that splashes over and dries on. Because this is going to get hot where your pan is sitting, because if this pan is hot and I sit it on my countertop here for a little while, this will be hot. That's kind of the same concept as this. If this is sitting here for a while, your cooktop will get hot, but it's never going to get red, smoking hot. It's not going to catch anything on fire that's sitting right next to it. Obviously, you don't want to keep a towel sitting right here when you're cooking. But if for some reason it got knocked over and it was there, it's not going to catch fire because it doesn't have that red ring glowing, heating it up. So that's one thing. It's safe. I almost never have to turn on if I'm just cooking something small. These are set off by heat. I always recommend you turn them on, but there's no heat coming off this, so this sensor isn't turning this one on. But I always recommend you turn on your hoods about 15 minutes before you start cooking, just because it'll get that air moving in the house, especially if you're searing anything. That's going to create a lot of smoke. So I'm going to just throw a couple pieces of this prime rib that I had cooked yesterday and get it seared up and make a little sandwich for lunch. And you can hear, this is at about 75% power right now, and you're going to get a nice sear out of it still. That's just the amount of power that the induction does have. Now, we want to go into a little bit of cleaning while this is cooking. You're going to hear me say a light detergent a lot. When I'm talking about that, it's just Dawn dish soap. A little bit of Dawn dish soap, a light detergent, light cleaner, something like dish soap is what I'm talking about. And you're going to hear me say a non-abrasive scrubby. What I use, I'll show you in a little bit with some more cleaning products, is a blue Scotch-Brite non-abrasive sponge. You can pick them up just about anywhere that sells any kind of cleaning supplies. Any of your local grocery stores, Walmart, online, any of that is going to give you most of these cleaning supplies that I'm talking about today. So let's say you do get caramel splash over on your induction cooktop and it dries. One thing I recommend is doing that light detergent, a little bit of soap and water, that non-abrasive sponge. Make sure your cooktop is completely cool when you do that. You know, if you had something going, like this is going to be warm when I take it off because this plate is hot as it's cooking. So make sure that it's cool. After you're done, wait 20 minutes, cool it off, and then go into cleaning. Most of the time, since it is so easy to clean, a little bit of just that soap and water, wipe it off. I take a microfiber towel and I will then dry it, and you're going to be good to go. But say something like that caramel gets on there, it won't come off. You can take a little bit of water, let it sit on there. It's going to get that water, it's going to start eating away at the sugar. And I'll take a little razor blade and I'll just go at it at an angle, and you can scrape it right off. Make sure you're not going right at it. Now, your cooktop has a diamond surface on top, and this is crack and scratch resistant. So you don't got to worry. I don't recommend that you just sit here and just go back and forth all the time. You know, pick it up and give it a little shake. But if you accidentally give it a little drop like that, it's going to be all right. I mean, you don't want to go bang, bang on it and try to break it. That's definitely not something you want to do. But it is scratch and it is crack resistant. So you're not going to have to worry about a little movement there. There's not going to leave any scratches. It's a nice flat surface, and you're not going to have to worry about it. I'm going to take a look at our bread. It's getting nice and toasty. So put a little bit of this prime rib on there. I got a little bit of white cheddar that I had for some omelets earlier this week. I had to put that on. And we'll have a few nice sandwiches for the staff here after we get done. So put these over here, and we are ready to go and move on. This is going to cool off quick, like I said. Just set it to the side. That'll cool off, and we'll be ready to go. So, and a lot of times, cooking on this, it's not warm right here, so I'll just give it a little wipe if anything splashed over, and it's ready to go. So I'll let it cool down, and we'll talk a little bit more about the cleaning. One more thing I got is you can use any of these. We use the Wyman glass cooktop cleaner. So say you want to give it a nice polish. You got people coming over. You want to make sure it's nice and clean. You pick up the cleaner, and you just use the recommended. You read the directions on the back. It's going to tell you how to do it. On this one, it's telling me you want to put the cleaner right on a rag. I always recommend you put anything on a rag, especially cleaner, and then go and polish it. You don't want to go wild and just start putting the cleaner all over the cooktop. Put a little bit on a nice microfiber. Come in like you're waxing your car, and you can wax and clean your cooktop there. It'll be nice and shiny when you get done. If there's any kind of haze afterwards, just grab a new towel, give it a little polish, and it'll take that haze right off and leave a nice, shiny cooktop. If we got any questions about the cooktop, please go ahead and the induction cooktop, please put it in the chat. I'm going to go over to the gas cooktops and then the gas range tops. And again, we're talking about everything on top today. All of the Wolf cook on. Anything I'm cook on top of, we're going to be talking about today. So right here, I got a 30-inch cooktop, gas cooktop, and I'm going to tell you, this is a great piece of cooking machinery. What you got here is you got nice iron grates here. Anytime you're going to hear me talk about when you pick these grates up, you always want to pick them straight up. One of the reasons is you don't want to pull it forward and scratch any of your nice polished stainless here. The last thing you want to do is, boom, scratch some of this stainless, and then you got to look at it. Because your Wolf product is tested to last 20 plus years in your kitchen. So you know, as long as you got it there, you remember putting that scratch in it. Obviously, it will happen eventually. I hope it doesn't, but you know, every once in a while a little scratch will happen. So always lift it straight up. With these grates here, when I go to clean these, you never want to submerge the grates. They have these rubber feet on the bottom here that have a high temperature glue on them, but those are not resistant to chemicals that would be in, so if you had any grease or anything like that in your sink, you don't want to get it submerged. When you go to clean these, you can bring it over to your sink. Just don't fill your sink up with soapy water or anything like that. Do a little bit of that light detergent, a little bit of soap on a sponge. Go ahead and give it a nice scrub down, get in all the cracks. Then you're going to want to come back and dry it. Dry it all off, make sure the whole piece is dry. And then you can put your grate back on your cooktop. Now that's going to be the same with any of the iron grates that you got, or these little eyes, the covers on your burners. That's the same way. Just give it a little cleaning, dry it off, and then you can remove it back to the burner. One thing I definitely want to talk about, because this is a patented technology through Wolf, is your dual stack burners. With your dual stack burners, you have 2 separate burners on each burner, and that's going to be any of the Wolf gas cooking on range top, cooktops, ranges. Anything that's cooking with gas, you're going to have those patented dual stack burners. And what that is you can kind of see, if you can see, and if not, yours at home, look, there's a top layer of gas holes, and then there is a bottom layer. So when I go in and I turn this on, you're going to have your traditional high and low. When you're cooking on high and you're searing, that's going to be great. You're going to be able to use it all the time, your high and low. But since we are the master of heat transfer, we want to make sure there isn't anything in between. So you got your regular high and low, and then you're going to have your simmer. Each burner has the simmer. So what you're going to do is once you get it high and low, it's going to stop. Then you're going to have to push in. You're going to hear that going off there and relighting. You're going to hear it relight. And then it's going to be on the low simmer. So now you have less power coming out of those bottom burners. It moves it a little bit further away from any pot and pan you got on there. And you're going to have that low temperature control. It's going to be on all the burners, but especially your top left burner, which is always the smallest burner on any Wolf gas appliance that has gas coming out of it. Your top left will always be your smallest burner, and then your bottom left will always be your largest burner. Now your other burners are going to be comparable to that large burner. They're going to be a little bit less, so if you need something to sear or get something boiling real fast, you're going to use that big burner. That's always going to be your bottom left. But we're talking about low temperatures again. On the simmer, you can put milk, or say you got some milk or some cream sauce on one of these burners and you got it on that low simmer. You're not going to have to worry about scalding the bottom of it. Or you got your New England clam chowder going and you want to cook it for a while, cook it down. You're not going to have to worry about that scalding of the bottom or constantly stirring it, because you do have this full range of temperature control that you can keep down. You can get it right at a simmer and it's going to keep it there, because it's not turning off and on or anything like that to keep that at the same temperature. It just lowers the amount of flame that you have. It keeps it precisely at that, and you're going to be able to keep everything right where you want it. Now with that small burner, I talked about the simmer on all of them. Well, we call the smallest burner, you go to your melt feature. So what that melt feature is going to be able to do is when you turn it on, the smallest, you're going to be able to put your hand right here and you're going to feel the heat, but it's not going to be real hot. So if I put a pot of chocolate chips on here, walk away for an hour and a half, come back, that chocolate's not going to be burnt. It's not going to be seized up. It's actually still going to hold its form. So it's still going to look like chocolate chips. You go in there and stir it, and it's going to go right into melted chocolate. So you're going to be able to hold your chocolate, and say you're going to be making some chocolate strawberries and for a holiday or something like that. You're going to hold your chocolate there. You're going to be able to dip them in there and not have to worry about stirring it or burning the bottom. Because really, what Wolf tries to do with all of their equipment is make it easier for you and to take some of the thought out of it. Because if you got to worry about, oh, my chocolate's going to burn, oh, my hollandaise that I have on the low setting, you don't got to worry about it breaking because it's keeping it at a certain temperature. And when you don't have to worry, it gives you more time to enjoy the other things, like cooking your protein that you know has to be done to a perfect temperature, getting your side dishes prepped to where you don't have to worry about that chocolate or that butter sauce or that hollandaise that's sitting on this small burner at the perfect temperature breaking or seizing up on you. It's really a great feature. It's going to be on all of your gas on your Wolf. That small burner is going to all have the melt feature, which I'll show you on the range top, dual fuel top here in a moment. So some of the things with cleaning with this, I'm going to be going over with the range top, and it's going to be very similar. So I'm not going to do two separate sessions on that. I'm going to just talk about the cleaning of it when I get over to all the cleaning products. So make sure any cleaning on your cooktop, you ask that question, and I'll go over it when I'm talking about cleaning on the range top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over to the range top because I got a little bit more cooking to do on the griddle, and I'm going to show you a few things, some tips on how to clean and how to do that. So now in front of me, I got a dual fuel range, but it's going to be the same as a range top. So I'm going to go over a little bit of BTUs. I'm going to do a little bit of cooking on the griddle here, which griddle, if you got a griddle, I'm going to talk about that, talk about how to kick it off when you first get it, how to get that seasoned, and then how to take care of it afterwards, really. So with any of your grates, like I said over there, you're going to want to lift them straight up, especially on your range top or range, because you do have that bull nose here that is easier to scratch, and it sticks out a little bit further than the cooktop, and you don't want to scratch that. One thing about what Wolf and Sub-Zero, and it makes it so nice, is that high polished stainless steel, that show quality shine that you get on all your appliances. They're easy. Once you get a scratch in it and you try to buff it out, it dulls down that shine. So that's one thing. You just try to minimize any pressure point that you will have in scratching it. Grates, lift them straight up. It's going to minimize a lot of that time that you got to scratch. So I'm going to throw together a little bit on the griddle. I'm going to talk about the griddle, and then I'll go back on a little bit of the burners and go into cleaning. I'm even going to clean the griddle here today for you. So like I was talking earlier, I have just some leftovers that I had in my refrigerator, and the griddle is perfect for that. I'm going to take some of these shrimp that I had for a pasta earlier this week, go ahead and get them on there, especially for breakfast. This is just like a little Cajun egg stir-fried mash that I like to make with all my leftovers. Throw little eggs. I got some potatoes that I steamed off. I'll throw that on here. I got a little bit of ground chorizo that I had earlier this week. I'll add that to my potatoes. I had a half an onion, so slice that up. And we're going to go ahead and cook that for a while, get all this cooking. One of the great things about the Wolf griddle, I got a double griddle here, but even a single griddle, is the temperature control. You're going to hear me say that a lot. You're going to have your temperature control on your griddle is going to be from 100 degrees to 450 degrees. So I got the right side turned up a little bit more to kind of brown up that potato. And then I got the left side here a little bit less. I'm still going to get a sear on my shrimp. I got that set at 300 and between 300 and 350 degrees, but I want to make sure it cooks all the way through. My potatoes are already steamed off, so I don't got to worry about that. I had them in my convection steam oven, steamed them off, cooled them down. They're ready to use for breakfast potatoes. So when you first get your griddle or cooktop, what I like to do is give it a light cleaning. A little bit of soap and water, give it a rub down, dry it all off. That gets any residue that, from shipping or from the plant when they're making it, any kind of residue that's on there, you get that off. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to season your griddle. So to season your griddle, what you're going to want to do is get some high temperature oil. What is high temperature oil? Something like grapeseed oil, avocado oil, even some canola oil have a higher smoke point. Really what you're not looking to use is some butter or olive oil. They have a lower smoke point. And it's going to make sense in a minute why you do that. So you give it a nice coating of oil. You're going to turn your griddle up to 350 degrees. What that's going to do is open up the pores of your griddle. You let it go for about 5 minutes and you shut it off. When it cools off, the pores of that metal are going to trap some of that oil in the metal. You're going to repeat that process 3 times. Oil, 350 degrees, 5 minutes, then let it cool all the way down. After about 3 times, you're going to be ready to start cooking on it. Because what you're trying to do is you're kind of treating this like a cast iron and you want to season it. So for cleaning, it's going to be real easy. I'll show you. Over time, you're going to cook on it. You're going to build up that patina on there. And you're going to build up that nice black coat of patina, and it's going to essentially make your griddle a nonstick pan, kind of like a cast iron that was real nice and seasoned. Nothing would stick in it. When you went to clean it, all you had to do was a little bit of oil, a little bit, wipe it out, oil it again, and it was ready to go for the next time. And that's really what you want to try to get this rolled steel to. It's a nice thick piece. That's what keeps that temperature control the whole time. So give it a little mix right here. You can see all this is coming up real easy. I'm not getting anything stuck. I barely had any oil on there. I probably had maybe 2 tablespoons for this whole thing. These shrimp are about halfway cooked. This is where I'm going to bring it all together. And I like to make a little hole in the middle here. I'm going to pour about 5 eggs, just right in the middle. Let that start to cook. A little bit of salt. We'll just let it go for a minute there. So once you got this nonstick, you're going to be able to do things like eggs, potatoes, shrimp, and you're not going to have them stick horribly. You're going to be able to get your chicken breast off there without tearing it up. Another thing is, if something is starting to stick a little bit, let it cook a little bit longer. Sometimes those proteins need to get that good sear before they release. So if a piece of fish or a piece of chicken is sticking and you do have a nice seasoned griddle, give it a couple seconds. It'll sear, that protein will release, you'll be able to flip it. So while this is cooking, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the burners again. So with your dual fuel or cooktop, whether you have a 30-inch all the way up to a 60-inch, we'll talk a little bit of BTUs about your burner here. So on your top left, always your smallest burner, just like the cooktops. That's going to be about 9,000 BTUs. You're still going to be able to hold chocolate. You're still going to be able to hold those simple butter sauces, but you're also going to have a nice flame to it. So you do have that you got it off, you got that high to low. You're going to go right here, you'll see simmer then. Push the knob in. You're going to go high to low again. So you got your 9,000 BTU, you got your 20,000, which is going to be your largest on your burners. That's followed by 15 and 18,000 BTUs. And really the difference in that is going to be not too significant. You're going to be able to get anything seared on any of these burners. You're going to be able to get water boiling quick on any of these burners, but this is a little bit more powerful, and this is a little less powerful. So you're going to be able to use this for your more delicate stuff, holding the soup, and then you're going to be able to use this for more of your searing when you're cooking. You're going to be able to use all those burners for those things, but just placement of, when you're cooking multiple things, kind of just your placement. With your grates, again, just like the other one, you don't want to keep these submerged. So straight up every time, don't keep them submerged. A little bit of dish soap. This is that Scotch-Brite. blue scrubby that I was talking to you about, you can use this. It's going to work great. You're not going to have to worry about anything making scratches. Now, one thing, when you are cleaning and you are using the griddle, stuff splashing over, getting down in between, you're going to want to remove your grate straight up. Anytime you're cleaning down in here, I just use a little bit of that light detergent, soap, and water mixture. I'll use it on the sponge though. You never want to pour that down in here. They are sealed. It's not going to go through. So if you do have a boil over, it's not going to go through into your cabinetry or into your ovens if you got a range. It's sealed. You're not going to have to worry about that. What will happen though is these igniters. If you start worrying, or if you start pouring a bunch of soapy water in there, they get wet and it's hard for them to ignite. So you'll hear them start clicking, 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 and it'll be a little bit annoying. So what you want to do if that does happen, say you're cleaning and you hit one of the igniters and it starts clicking because it's telling you that it can't ignite, go ahead and light it. If it doesn't light, use a flame to light it. Let it run for a little bit. Let it dry out that igniter. Once it dries it out, it'll stop the clicking. I'll let it go for another 2 or 3 minutes past that just to make sure it's nice and dried out. And then you're going to be able to turn it off and it'll be back good to go. Now, a little trick that I do when I am cleaning in here, I'll take a towel first, wipe it out with nothing. Just try to get any of that debris out of there that might have got in there. And then I'm going to do a little bit of soap and water on the non-abrasive sponge. Get in here. I'll take that microfiber after that and dry it all out. If you're still getting a little bit, you see just a little bit in there, you want to give it a little bit of shine. One thing you can always do is you can take a little bit of stainless steel shine and get in here. Just make sure that stainless steel shine is on a rag. You're not spraying it wild or pouring it on there wild. You just get a little bit on a rag and it'll make it nice and shiny, look brand new again. There are a few things about the stainless steel shine that I want to tell you about. So most people don't know there are 2 types of stainless steel shine. There is a oil-based and there is a water-based stainless steel cleaner. It comes with, the little bottle it comes with is the oil-based. There's nothing wrong what you use, whether you use oil or you use the water-based cleaner, but you don't want to mix them. So say you got an oil-based cleaner and you didn't know that there's a water and oil difference. Say you've been using and you run out and then you go buy a water-based. You know oil and water doesn't mix very well. So say you have a big area like a big Sub-Zero that's completely stainless steel, you start cleaning it, you'll start to see streaks. And if you're anything like me, those streaks bother you all day long. So you're in there cleaning it again. So if that ever happens to you, went from an oil base to a water base, what you're going to want to do is clean that whole surface with a little bit of soap and water, dry it, and then start again. So that's just one little trick that I like to have, is to know if it's water or oil base and just stick with it. It makes it a lot easier. I'll say the oil base is a little bit shinier, gives it a little bit more glimmer, but the water base does a great job as well, and it doesn't leave as much fingerprints. So you're kind of giving up one for the other. They're both great products. You just want to make sure you're trying to use the same thing. For our griddle here, we're just about done. Just got this egg and potato and shrimp and chorizo. Add a little bit of white cheddar that I grated because I had it left over. Got it all on there. Give it one nice flip. And then I'm going to be able to put it right on a platter here for the great Sunday dish. You know, you've been going all week long. You just want to relax, watch a game. You're doing some cleaning. You just want to get this out of the way. It's kind of like a potato, shrimp, whatever's left over in your refrigerator, kind of little casserole thing. It's going to be great, easy, quick. So for your griddle, you can see I got it pretty dirty doing that. It's no problem. It's easy to clean. What I like to do is I keep one of these bench scrapers or bench knife metal one on hand at all times. You can pick these up at any of your kitchen stores or online. If you put in metal bench scraper or dough scraper, you're going to be able to find one of these. I get the flat edge one rather than the round. If you get a round edge one, that's more of a bowl scraper for scraping in your bowls after you get the dough out of there. So I'll let it cool for a couple seconds. I'm going to go ahead and do it, but I recommend you let it cool just a little bit because it's going to get hot. Scrape any of this off that you have on there. Just give it a good scrape back and forth. Then I like to keep a towel on hand. Usually you want to keep a dirty towel. This one is one that we've used before. It's got stains on it that we use all the time for the griddle because it is going to stain the towel. You're going to get a little bit of oil on it. So just use the same towel. Keep it in a drawer close in a bowl so that the oil doesn't get out if there is oil on it. And then I'll use a little bit of water. Get any more of that off of here. Be careful, that steam does burn. So if you let it cool a little bit more, it will help. And you're going to see it brings up some of the impurities. It's going to bring up some of the impurities that are still left on that griddle. You can give it another little scrape. Just make sure you keep your hand away from any of that water that's left that could steam. Then I will give it another wipe down. You got it pretty much clean there. Scrape everything into your trough. Now, one thing about this oil trough here, it does remove, but it gets real hot when you're cooking on it. So you're going to want to remove that after it cools down. So now that I've got it pretty much clean here, a little bit of oil because I got a little grapeseed oil I put on there. Give it. So you're basically seasoning it every time you use it. And don't worry if when you first start you get a couple spots that are darker than others because it's going to fill in as you use it. So now that's clean. I know there's a lot of, if you look, there's going to be videos about deep cleaning your griddle. So there is a Scotch-Brite high temperature cleaner kit that comes with high temperature cleaner. You've got your griddle on about 350 degrees and you got your hood on full blast because the stuff is not the best smelling. You put it on there, it comes with a little scrubby and a squeegee to get that off. That is not something you want to use every time because what that does is it strips all of your patina off of there, all of your seasoning off of there. That high temperature griddle cleaner is something you want to use about every 6 to 8 months, depending on how much you cook on it. One sign that you need to use the high temperature cleaner and really get all of your restart the seasoning process is if you're cooking something and you start getting little flakes off into your food. You'll see little flakes of the buildup. Then it's time to do that high temperature cleaner. We have a few videos on our YouTube channel that shows one of our chefs actually using the high temperature cleaner. So if you'd like to see that cleaning and you think it is time for you to do that, you go ahead and go on the Roth Living YouTube page. And Chef Matt does a great job at cleaning a griddle just like this with the high temperature cleaner. And he tells you exactly how to get all that done. We're not quite there yet. We got a good couple months of cooking on this before I do that stripping, that high temperature cleaner that gets all this off and we restart the process. So most of the time, it's as easy as that to clean. You let it cool down now, you're gonna be able to put your top back on there. It's gonna, even if there's a little extra oil, once it cools down, it's gonna soak that up. You're not gonna have to worry about big pools of oil on there. As long as you just wipe it in, you're gonna be good to go, and it's ready to go for the next use. And a good thing about it is you're not gonna get any transfer of flavor. It just cooked off that water, oil, you're good to go. Now, I don't have a charbroiler up here, but I know a couple of you got a charbroiler. So some of the cleaning I use for that, I make sure I take that grate right off when it's cool. I'll get in there with my vacuum. I got a little handheld vacuum, or you can use a shop vac. Suck any of that ash, because that charbroiler at 16,000 BTUs gets up to high temperature. I mean, you do have the low and the high setting, but it gets up at a high temperature, and most of the time it'll turn any of that to ash. Get in there, suck any of that out every once in a while with your shop vac or just your retractable little vacuum hose. Once you get that out of there, you can kind of wipe the sides with the damp towel and get any of that out of there. When it comes to deep cleaning, you can remove the grate, and there's going to be 3 pieces around. Let's just act like this is a charbroiler. I take the grate off. There are going to be 3 pieces like this going around it. All right, you take those off, and then the whole piece will lift off. You can bring that over to your sink, give it a nice scrubbing with a little bit of soap and water, just your non-abrasives, or you can use one of these other, they're like little smiley face scrub daddy cleaners. When you get this under hot water, they're not abrasive, but when you get this under hot water, it even turns softer. And when it's under cold water, it's a little bit less. I think we got a question, so I'm going to go ahead. The oil I'm using right now is some grapeseed oil. That's just a high temperature oil. Like I said, grapeseed, avocado, some canola oil, those are all going to be a high temperature oil, and those are going to be perfect for using on your griddle. And the reason, I don't know if I told you the reason you don't use that olive oil because it gets trapped in there and it has a lower smoke point. You can use it when you're cooking. That's no problem. Olive oil is perfect for cooking. Butter, fine for cooking. But after you clean it, at the end of the round of cooking and you want to oil it down, a little bit of grapeseed oil. Because I said those pores of that metal will shrink and trap oil. With that slow smoke point olive oil, say next time you turn that up to 400 degrees and you're ready to sear off a cowboy ribeye before you go into your convection steam oven to do a slow roast, or you want to sear off some steak because you're making a stir fry right on your griddle. When it's getting up to temperature, once it gets up above that 350, 365, it's going to start smoking. And you'll get a lot of smoke off it because that olive oil was trapped in there from the last use when you stopped it. So it's fine to cook with, but then after you clean it at the end, a little high temperature oil, so that's what gets trapped in there. It's not butter or anything like that that'll smoke when you do heat it up the next time. So with the charbroiler, like I said, you take that out, you clean it, you put it back in, you'll put your side pieces back in, and you're gonna get it nice and clean again. So that is one thing that I know a lot of people don't know, that it actually will, the whole piece will come out. These are you can barely tell that they're there. So they do come out, and the whole piece will lift out just for the charbroiler. Your griddle doesn't lift off, your burners don't lift up, just that charbroiler piece will lift off. You don't want to get any water down in that charbroiler on that actual char. You do a little damp towel around the sides when you have the top off, but you don't want to get a bunch of water down in there. It's got that clay infrared burner, and you just don't want to get any water on that burner. It's going to burn off. You let it burn for a few minutes, it gets hot enough, any of that will burn off. So I'm going to go over just a few more cleaning products I got and what I use them for. So please, if you got any more questions, please put them in, and then that'll just about conclude what we have today. So some of the other cleaners I use, this Barkeeper's Friend, we use this all the time. It comes in a powder or a slurry form, kind of like a paste. So whenever you're using this, it just helps clean a little bit. If you got a little bit of hard stuff around your burners or anything like that, you can make a little paste, get in there with a little sponge or something and just rub it in. It's not going to scratch, but it really uses the friction and gets a little bit more out of a cleaner. So if you get the powder kind, just add a little bit of water and make a paste out of it. Or they have the stuff that comes in a bottle and it's already paste. I use a little bit of this Easy Off. I never spray Easy Off on any of my equipment. What I'll do is I'll take the cap off, I'll spray some in the cap, and then I'll use the edge of one of the towels, or I usually just keep a little toothbrush that I use just for cleaning. I'll get one of those travel ones that are about that size, and then you can get around any of these hard areas to get into. Let it sit for a few moments, wipe it off, then a little soap and water just to make sure there's no residue. Same with this Goo Gone. You get something stuck in here, say you're making something and you don't really know what it is, or it was hot and you set something on here that might have dripped through. Little Goo Gone, you put it on there for about, I'll use a cotton ball, dab it on the area, and then let it sit for about 5 minutes. It really helps take any of that away. You can get it off. So we got a little easy off, a little barkeeper's friend. We talked about the stainless steel cleaner, oil-based versus water-based. Got your 2 scrubbies here. That is pretty much everything we clean with. Any kind of regular sanitizer, household sanitizer that you use, or any degreaser that is residential, you're going to be able to use. Once you get into that commercial degreaser, it gets real powerful, and that can actually hurt your hands. So you want to definitely use some residential, any kind of residential degreaser on there. But that is what we use here, and we get everything clean every time. The big key about it will be making sure you clean up after every use and you don't let stuff build up. That's one of the worst things, is when you let it start building up and then you go to clean it, it makes it a lot harder to clean. So if you go in here, I barely use this. I just got done using the griddle. Some splashes of grease came over. I'll get in here and take a towel or a microfiber, kind of polish it up, make sure it's clean, and it'll be good to go. So once everything is clean, put it back together, and gonna be good to go. So I'm gonna open it up. If we got any questions, please answer them in the next 30 seconds or so, or ask them in the next 30 seconds or so, and then we will go ahead and move on for that. There is one other thing I'd like to tell you. If you are close to any of our showrooms, I would really recommend you come in for an ownership class in one of our showrooms. If you look up at rothliving.com, we got Kansas City, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, and Denver. Our chefs will take care of you. We will do it in an ownership. We can set up a one-on-one. We can make sure you are completely feeling fine with cooking and cleaning on your appliances. And one good thing is you're going to get some good food out of it too. If you don't leave any more educated, which I know you will, you're going to leave full and happy. So do we got any questions, Lynn? Well, it doesn't seem like we had any questions come in, so this is going to conclude our cooktops and range tops for the day. And I just want to thank you for coming in, and please come back for more content like this. We got a bunch of videos, and anything that's going to help you out, let us help you. That's really what we're here for. Thank you, and have a great day.